Welcome to Beyond the Buzz, where curiosity meets clarity. I'm Dr. Tara Morrows, scientist and communicator with decades of experience translating complex human research into clear, evidence-informed insight. Today, we're talking about placebo effects in wellness practices, the real, measurable effects that can happen when people expect a treatment to help. A placebo is a treatment that doesn't have a specific active effect on the condition being treated, yet the experience of receiving it and expecting it to help can still influence symptoms. You might be trying meditation, supplements, acupuncture, energy healing, crystals, body work, or other wellness services, and wondering what is actually doing the work. When the messaging is confident, but the evidence is complex, it can quietly drain your time and money. If it feels powerful, does that make it powerful? Let's take a closer look together, starting with what's driving the buzz. This conversation sits inside a much bigger wellness landscape. In 2022, meditation was the most commonly used complementary health approach in the United States, used by over 17% of adults, nearly 1 in 6. And the economics are just as striking. The global wellness economy grew by almost 8% from 2023 to 2024 and reached almost $7 trillion in 2024. That scale shapes expectations around wellness practices. When an industry is that large and participation is that common, stories about transformation travel fast. Let's check the evidence, our kind of receipt check. This is the moment to pause and ask the questions that matter. What's the evidence? What's the source? And how do we know? Here's what the evidence shows. A Cochrane systematic review, a study that reviews all available research on a topic, examined placebo interventions across many clinical conditions. It found that placebos generally had little or no important effect on objective outcomes, such as blood pressure or measurable disease markers. However, the same review found that placebos could have small effects on subjective outcomes, like pain or how someone reports feeling. Subjective outcomes are experiences reported by the person, not directly measured by a device. More recently, researchers have studied open-label placebos, placebos given honestly, where people are told they are receiving a placebo with no active ingredient. A systematic review and meta-analysis found that open-label placebos were associated with small to moderate improvements in some conditions compared to no treatment. That suggests expectations and context can influence outcomes even without deception. Context appears especially relevant in pain care. A 2024 systematic review in musculoskeletal pain found that contextual factors, such as clinician communication and the treatment setting, meaningfully contributed to outcomes in exercise-based or non-surgical treatments. In other words, part of the effect was linked to the surrounding experience, not only the specific technique. That distinction matters in many wellness settings, whether it's acupuncture, Reiki, hands-on body work, or supplement protocols, where ritual, interaction with the practitioner, and expectation are built into the experience. In weight loss research, a 2024 systematic review examined placebo and nocebo effects. Nocebo meaning negative expectations that can worsen symptoms in adults. The authors found evidence that expectations can influence weight-related outcomes, but effects varied and were generally modest. The findings highlighted that mindset can play a role, but it does not override biological processes or health behaviors. And across healthcare more broadly, a systematic review found that the quality of the patient-clinician relationship was associated with better health outcomes. Empathy, listening, and trust were linked with measurable differences across conditions. Relationship is part of the treatment context. Taken together, the evidence suggests placebo and context effects are real, but typically modest and more consistent for subjective experiences than for objective biological measures. So why does this trend resonate? Wellness practices often create strong rituals and meaning. Rituals can shape expectations, and expectations can shape perception. Many of the elements that can drive improvement across very different interventions are surprisingly similar. Time spent listening, validation, ritual, touch, empathy, and feeling seen. Those elements can influence stress responses, attention to symptoms, and how the brain processes pain and discomfort. They are part of context. Many wellness encounters involve time, attention, and feeling heard. Evidence shows the patient-clinician relationship can influence outcomes. That kind of relational care can feel powerful. And when nearly 1 in 6 adults uses a complementary approach like meditation, shared experiences amplify belief and social proof. In a multi-trillion-dollar global industry, compelling stories are part of the ecosystem. None of that means benefits are imagined. It means human biology and psychology respond to context, expectation, and relationship. So what's the takeaway? Across many conditions, placebo and context effects are real, but usually modest. They appear strongest for how people feel, like pain or symptom reports, and less consistent for objective biological measures. The therapeutic relationship itself can meaningfully shape outcomes. It can be hard to untangle what comes from the specific technique and what comes from expectation, context, and relationship. Your evidence edit moment. There is mixed evidence that placebo and context effects meaningfully influence subjective experiences like pain, but these effects are generally small and less reliable for objective disease outcomes. Strong therapeutic relationships are associated with better outcomes, suggesting context matters alongside any specific technique. Expectation shapes experience, context shapes outcomes, but neither automatically proves that a specific mechanism, energy flow, detox pathways, crystal frequencies, or supplement blends, is responsible for the change. Clarity comes from understanding both biology and belief. Something to reflect on. When you think about a wellness practice that felt helpful, what parts were the technique itself, and what parts were the time, attention, expectation, and relationship surrounding it? If you found this useful, follow Beyond the Buzz and share it with a friend who likes a little science with their scroll. You can also explore the full transcript, the clarity poll, and evidence in the evidence edit. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind to your mind. This is Beyond the Buzz, cutting through the hype because evidence is empowering.